Welcome to Speakers and Stages, the series that goes beyond the mic and behind the scenes of powerful events. I'm your host, Lena Castle, event strategist and speaker experience expert. Yes, we're going to sit down and talk with event industry experts from backstage chaos to center stage clarity. This is where the strategy meets the spotlight. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome back everyone to Speakers and Stages, the show where we take you behind the curtain with some of the amazing speakers of today in this industry and into the minds of powerful voices changing the game. Today's guest is someone who doesn't just take the mic, he brings the music, the message, and the meaning. He's a global keynote speaker, an executive coach, a DJ, and we'll jump into that, and a media personality who's appeared in national news networks. And his expertise, everyone, listen, emotional intelligence, okay, executive presence, and leadership. He blends data, real life insight, and energy to help people create sustainable, positive change. We all need positivity. He has been named a top national speaker by Smart Meeting and is known as the EQ DJ because he's not speaking or just coaching. He's spinning records and reading the room. So please help me welcome Rich Bracken.
It's worth it.
I truly think if you do not have Rich speaking at your conference, you're crazy. He brought in so much energy. He turned the afternoon around and he just re-energized everybody.
Each one of you is an expert in what you do. And I want you to be convinced of that today. I want you to walk out of here more confident in who you are and more lifted in who you are because you are amazing. And you don't hear that enough either.
The thing that really set Rich apart was the creative use of music and the way that he was able to wind that into what I do professionally.
I want you to sing along with me, loudly. Because I heard y'all singing Baby Got Back last night. Every single one of you has a resilience in you that is unstoppable. But it's up to you to determine when and if and how you're going to use it.
I feel like it's one of those like,
Rich.
am I at the end of my career when I'm watching myself on video before I start talking?
But you've been speaking for some time now and your history with, I love the emotional intelligence side because, talk to us even, what does that even mean? So let's just jump into it, Rich. If you want to add anything before that, but love to just share with my audience just a little bit about like just emotional intelligence. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, emotional intelligence is by far the number one most universal topic, but also the most beneficial. And the best part about it is that you can actually control it. Instead of your IQ being stuck at a certain level at a certain age, which unfortunately for some of us didn't peak out very high, emotional intelligence is something that you can raise all the time. And so when you are thinking about how your day goes and how your emotions, it breaks down to what are my emotions and how am I feeling them and also managing them? But then how am I managing the relationship and the emotion of other people that I'm interacting with? It's all of those things combined, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management that make emotional intelligence what it is.
What I like about what you said is that you can raise it. Some people feel like this is where I am, this is where I'll always be. So how does one begin to shift that?
I think that's what sets it apart from other things. No disrespect to other personality exams or things like that, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Enneagram, those. A lot of people feel stuck in those. And yes, there are ways that you can tweak it a little bit, but when it comes to emotional intelligence, the little things that you do on a daily basis help increase what you're doing. So I think about things like journaling or visualization or meditation has been a game changer for me because I talk about this because I put this into practice myself and saw the dramatic change in my life. So when I think about taking 5 minutes before a podcast or before a meeting or before a presentation and visualizing what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it and how I want to appear, that helps lower my anxiety and stress and raise my confidence, which also raises my emotional intelligence. I've got a document that I share with my clients all the time, and I'm happy to share it with your audience as well, that are 50 ways that you can increase your emotional intelligence in under 5 minutes through self-care. It's stuff like deep breathing. How many times do we go into a meeting or a presentation and we're holding our breath or clenching our jaw and we're stressed out? We're not showing up as our best self. That change in philosophy, the change in mindset helps us raise our emotional intelligence, but also perform at our top level.
And then how do you add music into all of that?
So if you think about music, and I mean, I'm grinning because it's my favorite topic to talk about, has been since I was 3. But when we think about emotional intelligence, our emotions are turned one way or the other, positive or negative, in a matter of seconds. So you see that email pop up in your inbox, or you hear that person's voice, or you're in a meeting and somebody says something that doesn't make you feel as good as it should. Or on the positive side, if you have something happen that's really good, your emotions change. Music's the same thing. You know, as a DJ, that was the best part about what I got to do, was that I would play a song knowing what psychological effect it would have on the audience, what kind of emotional response they would have. Just
Yeah.
because you have to know the song and read the room. Most DJs nowadays are like, oh, I'm just going to play all the hits and we'll see what happens. No, there's psychological room reading that goes on. So when you hear that song, and even if it's just you're listening to music on Spotify or in your office
Mhm.
or in your car, that one song comes on, and we all have those songs. That one song comes on, and in a matter of 2 to 3 seconds, when you hear those first couple of notes, that changes your mentality. That changes your mood and your energy. I mean, it's the same effect that when I played a song in a club and somebody would be talking, all of a sudden they put their drink down and bolt to the dance floor because they knew what song it was and they had to go dance to it. That's just the control that emotional intelligence has and music has.
Now, do you have a go-to, like, couple of songs that you're like, "Okay, to get people excited, it's either this, or this." If you're able to share, or if that's the secret sauce, you don't have to mention it.
I would love to say it's a secret sauce, but I'm too much of an abundant mindset. I'll share all my secrets. I don't care. Run with them if you want them. Go for it. I wish you the best. I had a bank of songs that I would call parachute songs. So if something went wrong, or if I was running out of time on mixing a new song in, there would be songs that I knew if I grabbed that one song and played it, it would work. Or I did this and transitioned into this song, it would work well. And it really depends on the venue or the crowd or the vibe that's going on. I typically play house music, mostly remix stuff. So people know the lyrics, but it's a different beat to it.
Cool.
Mostly I'm playing that. But if I'm playing open format, you can always pick any Prince song or any Michael Jackson song where people just all of a sudden come together. Even the younger generation now, thanks to TikTok and other formats,
Yes.
know who these artists are. It's funny, like my son, who's 12, was singing Young MC the other day, and he was doing Bust a Move, and I busted in on the second verse. He goes, how do you know this song? I went, sit down for a second. I did this song in middle school for our talent show when I was your age, so don't act like this is a new song.
But I like that you're talking, like, eliciting emotions, not just adults, but anyone of any age can be able to connect through music.
Yeah, and that's been the absolute game changer for me as a speaker too, because I think one of the things that for speakers of any style or genre or topic, you have to find that thing that separates you. And honestly, the DJ world and the speaking world has a lot in common, because as a DJ, there were very few of us, and there were ones that were traveling quite a bit and doing a lot. But then when software came out and Serato came out and all these things, the barrier to entry came down. All of a sudden, everybody was a DJ. One of my favorite songs is I Just Want to Be a Drummer, where he talks about how all these people want to be DJs now because it was just easy. It's the same thing. So you got to find a way to stand out from the crowd, become a category of one, become known in an industry for that certain thing. When you mentioned being the EQ DJ, I now have a keynote called Soundtrack for Success, where I bring my turntables on stage and play music from the stage. And it is blown my world wide open. And
Mm.
it's so much fun. I just did one in Orlando for 1,700 people in person and 500 online. And it turned into a full on party,
Wow.
absolute party. People were singing and dancing and having a great time. So that's been the fun differentiator for me, is bringing music into emotional intelligence.
And when I think about a party, because event organizers, meeting planners, they're looking to have that type of excitement, or raising after lunch, raising the level
Mhm.
of energy. And so people often see the 45 minutes that you had on stage, but not the hours of work behind it. What's something that most people don't realize what it takes to do what you do?
I think it's a couple of different things. I think there's the preparation piece of it, but it's also the mentality of servitude. And as you're up there, that has been the hardest lesson I've seen. I've seen as somebody who is very much a servant mentality. I love what I do because I get to help people. Why wouldn't I want to be on stage in front of people, helping them with a topic like emotional intelligence, while also creating an experience for the event planner, creating an experience for the event, and having people bought in emotionally? One of my favorite statements that somebody made last week at this thing in Orlando was the AV team that has worked for this conference for several years. And they said, this group has a good time. They may not always show it, but they're having a good time. By
Mm.
the time I was done with that room, I walked backstage and this crew was standing there, eyes like saucers, like huge dinner plates. They went, I don't know who you are or where you came from, But we have never, of any of our events, seen that. And I don't say that in a bragging way. It's just that I care so much about my audiences and I want them to have a good time while they're getting better. I just create this differentiated experience. So I think the mentality, going back to your question, the mentality that we're there to serve, we're there to help people. It's not about us. One of my favorite statements that a friend of mine heard from another friend, so I don't know who the originator was, but my friend Laura Gassner told me one time, no speaker is more important than coffee. If an event planner came down to a budget line and it was either coffee or you, who do you think is getting cut? There's no way you're going to have an event without coffee, but you can probably find another way around a speaker. So don't go in there thinking it's all about you, because it's not.
Yeah.
The behind the scenes work is all of it. And I don't mean memorizing presentations. I don't mean scripting presentations, but it's the research. It's focusing in on what you want your audience to feel and do after the fact. It's a matter of connecting with them. What are you going to lay into your storytelling that's going to make them understand that you understand their emotion? Your story is different than their story, but you can come together on that emotional connection and really get them to buy into what's going on, as opposed to, well, I did this and I'm that. They're watching a show and they do not care afterwards.
I like that you care. You're caring about a couple of different aspects. You're caring about the audience, their experience, but you're also asking the event planner, meeting planner, event producer, what does your audience want out of this? Who are these people I'm going to be speaking to? And I think that kind of curiosity is sometimes missed, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think way too many people take it for granted that they're asked to come on this stage to help change something, change a belief, change a culture, change an energy, change a momentum. I've been brought in for top performers and I've also been brought in during tough times for an organization. And so it's understanding where that audience is the minute they sit down. If you understand where they are, you understand what their struggles are, you understand what they need to hear, and you can talk with them and not at them, that is the most impactful thing that you can do as a speaker. So it is truly understanding what are their struggles and what are they trying to get through. I've heard speakers get up there and give their canned presentation and it goes flying by people because it's like, that's great, has nothing to do with what I'm struggling with.
Now, how do you, with the emotional intelligence and music, how does that show up in your speaking style? What makes your approach unique in that way, marrying the two? Some people may be like, oh, emotional intelligence. I don't know what people's perceptions are when they are hearing like, okay, this is what we're about to be presented with. How do you break down that barrier?
It's a great question. And frankly, like, you can find this in any of my presentations, so it's not secret sauce either. But what I do at the very beginning is I play music that evokes emotion. So I open up with something like Celebration by Kool and the Gang. And all of a sudden people are in a good mood, they're loosened up, even if it's first thing in the morning, before lunch, after lunch, end of the day, people respond to that song. It's a positive psychological song. So then I do another thing where I have a QR code that pops up on the screen. They scan the QR code and type in 2 questions. What is the song that makes you instantly happy? And what's the song that makes you instantly confident? It's all anonymous. Some freak flags fly, which is great. No judgment. Whatever you need, that is up to you. But we put the results up on the screen and it's always fun because people are responding and reacting. And there's always a few gems that pop up. There's some consistent ones.
Yes.
But, I respond to those and then I say, look, you're now psychologically happier and more confident, even if it's by 1%, because as you were typing in that song, you felt happier, you felt more confident because you were hearing the song in your head or singing it or humming it under your breath. And so now we're off and running within 5 minutes of the presentation because I've gotten them to really buy into the idea that music can change things, and emotional intelligence is the same thing. And I will say, still to this day, the presentation that I want to hang my hat on the most, I've done some really fun things. I'm not country, I'm not blue collar at all, but I can relate to anyone, frankly. I got brought in to speak to a group in the middle of Kansas, like in the center of Kansas. It was agriculture and construction equipment, farming equipment, salespeople. I walked in and it was very country, very blue collar, all the respect due to those people, like they're phenomenal people. And I'm up there talking about emotional intelligence. I was a little bit nervous going into the presentation, but I related to them. I talked with them and not at them. I understood what their struggles are. I understood what they were up against. I talked with my client and I really understood the background of the company. By the end of it, it was my first standing ovation of any keynote that I've ever given. To get that group, especially from an optics standpoint, me up there talking about emotional intelligence in this room of mostly big, burly, strong men standing up, applauding the fact that they now are better because of this topic called emotional intelligence.
Now, especially as I'm hearing you speak, you're in front of different types of people, different types of audiences. When you say relatable, are you pulling from stories? Like, I know that these are the things that I can pull from to be able to relate? Like, how do you just walk into a room and it might be people that you're like, okay, this might be an interesting experience. How do you get into a headspace? Because you did talk about confidence. So how do you get confident in a room with people that you're like, I'm going to have to make this connection?
So great question. And a few things play into this. One, the idea that I can and will help anybody and everybody that I get in front of. Doesn't matter what background you're from, doesn't matter what position you have in your company, doesn't matter what kind of industry. My desire to help people and the topic of emotional intelligence are universal, as is music. I've yet to meet anybody that just does not like music.
Right.
And so I'm going in with a universal front. From there, it really is choose your own adventure. Part of my confidence is born from the fact that I study the company. I ask questions in the pre-event calls. I do at least 2 pre-event calls just to understand everything I can about the company, the individuals, the industry, and the background of the organization. That makes me feel more comfortable and confident when I'm talking with them. Does improvisation and confidence and being able to deliver on the spot play into it? Absolutely. One of the best things I ever did in my career was take an improv class. That makes me able to pivot in any conversation, whether it's a presentation or a networking event. Being able to get up there and really relate and care, because I think that common thread, because I can get up there and tell any number of stories.
Yes.
But if I understand the emotion that I'm trying to pull through the audience, the things that I want them to think and do after I'm gone, there are stories that relate to all of those: confidence, resilience, change management. All of those things are universal. So there's a lot of universal applicability. And then it really is just feeling the crowd and reading the room. Improv.
When you said that, I was thinking of Sarah Blakely. I remember watching the master class during the pandemic, and she had mentioned taking improv, not taking yourself too seriously. And even in the art of selling, improv helps with your confidence. Even if you have a room full of people that are stone faced, I've done improv. Crickets.
In masterclass, if anybody's listening and wants a crash course in improv without breaking the bank or having to go be in front of people, go get a subscription to masterclass. Amy Poehler of Saturday Night Live has a class dedicated to improv on masterclass. I've watched it 3 times. It's phenomenal. So, and I'm a huge fan of Amy Poehler anyway, and she's just so funny and relatable. But she talks about the power of improv and how it plays into your professional and personal life. So there's your crash, the gem. Take that value and run with it. Whoever's listening to this, go sign up for masterclass and go watch Amy Poehler's masterclass in improv.
Because when we think speakers, we could be thinking and talking about stage presence, cadence, props, and all kinds of things. What I love about you is you're introducing a topic that people may or may not have an understanding about, but also incorporating something that they are familiar, like 100% across the board are familiar with. How you marry the two is really amazing. Now, as I think about that, and we incorporate improv, how are you thinking? Are you taking improv classes to just think on your feet, or is it the confidence?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. The first rule of improv is yes and. You can't ever say no to anything. And that mentality opens you up to any direction you want to take things. When I took the class at the Brave New Workshop in Minneapolis, you get uncomfortable. But being uncomfortable is where the comfort comes from. If you're uncomfortable and you realize where to go with that, you're never stuck. You're never in a position where you can't make a decision or you can't move out of a situation. And that's personally and professionally. Improv allows us to really open any door and take the story through that way. Because if you say something and my job is to say yes and build on that, I can literally take it anywhere I want to go.
Yes.
And so everything from improv moments, almost like crowd workish kind of moments. And this event in Orlando was the same thing. I'm up there and this place, I'll say it stopped short of bedlam because it was just so much fun and the crowd was just having it. And there was a woman off to the left. I'll never forget this. This woman off to the left yelled, "When are you going to play YMCA?" Just in the middle of my presentation, shouted it out, like, because it was that kind of party. I can't stand that song. As a DJ, there are certain songs you're like, oh my God. So here I am thinking, okay, how do I interact with this? I acknowledged her. I'm like, yes, and. That was my mentality. Like, okay, what can I do to make this woman feel seen, heard, not shut down? So I played to it. And then I wound up playing YMCA just because I'm like, you know what? Why not? Because I wanted them to feel more engaged and feel like there was a connection. I'll say I egged it on a little bit, but it made it fun. So when I dropped YMCA, I was like, I don't know, fine. And I hit play. 1,700 people stood up and did the YMCA. So, okay. I now have a better affinity for that because it ties it to a memory. But had I not said yes, I would have been like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. And then
Yeah.
there's this shutdown mood, even though it may be minor, that spreads over the audience. So what can you do to say yes and bring somebody in to what you're doing? Even if it's an acknowledgement and a pivot, go with it. Try
Yeah.
it out. Find some way to incorporate it.
Because you have a lot of, I mean, I feel like the industry, you brought this up in the beginning about, this industry is now flooded with people. Speaking
Yes.
was an art that a few people were really not only interested in, but actually did and did it very
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Those thinking that this is something they may want to do, is there any kind of advice you would give? Because there's a lot of things that when I think about, oh, you want to become a speaker, I'm like, there's so many different things that you need to start doing.
Mhm.
But from your opinion, what would be something they need to focus on immediately?
They need to focus on why they want to talk about what they want to talk about. I coach speakers as well. So somebody will come to me and say, hey, I want to speak or I want to do this. And the first question I ask is, what do you want to talk about and why? Why do you care about this topic? How are you going to be convincing to the audience? I've also seen topic chasers. When AI came out, all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, I'm an AI speaker. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm not trying to shut down anybody from speaking. If you have a message you want to share it, go for it. If you can find a way to make money speaking about it, or you can find a way to move audiences with it, go for it. I want everybody to win. What I will say is that it makes it so much easier to be a more impactful speaker, to have someone want to rebook you or recommend you or refer you or give you a testimonial when you're up there delivering from the heart. You're delivering to help the people that are in the audience. It's not about you. Focus on the topic, why you want to talk about it, and then what is that caring connection that you have with the audience? Because from that point forward, you can tell your stories, bring your facts, put your acronym up on the screen. If you don't care, I've seen great speakers the NSA would be thrilled to represent, but they didn't connect with the audience. I sat in the audience in several keynotes and you just feel the vibe in the audience. You can't put a price on that. That is what's going to deliver you a higher amount of fees, a higher amount of bookings, a higher amount of recommendations when people think that you genuinely care about their audience and their event.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what about those that are seasoned? You and I are around a lot of seasoned professionals in this industry. And I think it's really about being coachable or teachable. Sometimes some speakers are just like, I've been doing this for so long. I know what I'm doing. You can't teach me anything. So, what about
Right.
that side of the spectrum? What could seasoned speakers learn in this new era, even when we include AI as in the conversation?
Yeah, I think these are great questions, by the way.
Thank you.
Like, phenomenal job on this. So number one, and this is something I take to heart too, is the fact that you can never be perfect. How can you keep improving? I recently saw Jesse Cole, the Savannah Bananas, speak. Hands down, my favorite speaker that I've seen in the last 7 years. The guy was amazing. He talked about the philosophy of the Savannah Bananas that they take ideas and beat them up. How can they make it better? It's the Walt Disney approach. Walt Disney used to ride the rides or walk the park and say, what could be better? Not necessarily from a negative standpoint, but how could this be better? What can I do to improve the experience? If you're not challenging yourself, if you're not trying to find a new way to tell a different story, if you're not trying to improve your brand or change things up, the people that I see that I'm very close with are continually asking, how can it be better? Not from a negative standpoint, but I just want to keep increasing my game. Think about your professional athletes or musicians. They're always trying to level up their game. Why shouldn't speakers be the same thing? Speaking is a very lonely business. Understand that you should be creating a really tight network, but also an abundant mindset. I've seen too many speakers isolate themselves because they are either takers or they're not of that abundant mindset. There's plenty of business to go around, plenty of it. And so that abundant mindset will actually bring you more business, bring you more connections, bring you more, colleagues in the industry, which benefits everyone involved.
Wow.
From a mental health standpoint and just staying above water. There are times where I'll reach out to speaker friends of mine and say, hey, look, I'm struggling with this. How have you tackled this approach? If they don't have the answer, I've had speaker scrums where I'll get 4 or 5 speakers and we'll either go for a walk or hop on a Zoom and say, what are you seeing? What are you doing? What's working and not working? How can we all get better by providing advice to each other? It is truly what has helped me elevate my game for the last 5 years, 6 years since I've been in this.
I like that you invite to have the conversation. Sometimes
Mhm.
people, either to your point, stay isolated or this is it. I like
Mhm.
that you collaborate and have that connection as well as help the next generation of speakers figure out their game. That is so amazing. What about the family at home? How do you incorporate family as you're traveling and doing all these different things? How do you incorporate family?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I made sure that I did, especially with my sons, because it's tough because my dad was a salesman. He was in medical sales like I was when I first got out of college. And so he worked a ton and he was constantly on the road or constantly traveling. And so, one of the things I wanted to make sure my sons understood was that I wasn't leaving. It's like, oh my gosh, you get to go on vacation. I'm like, dude, it is not vacation. Try having beef jerky at an airport at 4 o'clock in the morning while you're waiting on a delay. It's not a vacation. It is work. And so what I did, and I can't remember who said this, I want to give them proper respect, but there's an individual that I watched one time that said, before I have any kind of business trip, I have we'll call it like a pregame meeting with my kids to say, here's where I'm going, here's who I'm talking to, here's what I'm talking about, and here's all the different things. Is there anything that you think I should do, say, have some input? And so they feel like they have some skin in the game. They're almost like little mini advisors. And so I want to make sure that they understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I show them pictures. When I get to the hotel, I'll FaceTime with them so they can kind of see the environment. I'll FaceTime them from the room or when we're doing sound check, just so they feel like a part of the experience. And, and I'll say, to be honest, because of all the TV exposure, and I was in Men's Health magazine recently, like they don't think I'm as cool as I think they think I am, or that I think they are. But they roll their eyes a lot of the times. They're like, oh, or if I'm getting frustrated with them over whatever thing, they're like, oh, nice emotional intelligence, Dad. Trust me, it's reality at home. I can get up on stage in front of 1,700 people. And the minute I get on the phone with my sons, they're like, yeah, I'm playing Fortnite. What do you want? Like, okay. Like the celebrity status goes nosediving. Like it's just bad. So they keep me humble. They keep me very humble.
But I love that because when you said that, I thought about like Nate Bargatze, who brings his daughter on stage, who sometimes introduces him. If you guys haven't seen Nate Bargatze, the Tennessee kid, just go.
He's amazing.
But great communicator, but just in the world of comedy. But I love how you incorporate family. And when I get to see the boys and they're coming out from practice, just showing love, like I'm proud of them. And you have this full picture of, yeah, I'm on the road. I have my family and there's all these things that are still happening. You have a pulse. Some things fall to the wayside and that's just natural too. Some things, isn't perfect, but how do I incorporate their opinions? I knew that just bringing in that conversation would just light you up because I think
it's about being present too. I tell them all the time, like, yeah, I travel a lot, but when I'm home, I'm yours. I will give you my dedication. If I have to take a call or I have to be on a meeting, I'll let you know exactly when it's going to start and when it's going to be done so that we can plan together. I will say this because it's being recorded and memorialized. I had a presentation in Puerto Rico one time, and it was the first time I missed one of my son's football games. But I actually Zoomed from Puerto Rico and sat in my room and watched the game. Now, I could have sat out by the pool, but I wanted to be focused and present. So I was in my room watching the game, having my meal in my hotel room so I could see his football game. He walked up to the screen right before the game and saw me. And so we got to connect. And I got to talk him up before the game. So even when I'm thousands and thousands of miles away, I'm there, I'm present. I want them to know that it's not me just gallivanting for vacations. It's work, but I'm present and I care. I want them to know why I'm doing it, but also know that I'm still their dad and I'm still engaged and I'm still there for them.
That is so awesome. Rich, is there any last thoughts or parting words of advice or wisdom that you would like to provide to the audience, speakers, event producers, meeting planners, all of us in the event industry?
Yeah, for my speaker colleagues out there, I go back to the idea of just really find out why you care about what you do. That is going to help you survive the tough times. It's going to help you enjoy the big times even more. To my event producers, my event planners, I know experience is a top thing for you. And so if it's not me, find somebody that provides an experience. But I promise you, the minute you and I hop on a Zoom and we talk about your next event, we're going to provide an experience and create an experience together that's going to be unmistakable. Case in point, this last event, they've already asked me to come back for the next year. Those kinds of experiences need to be created. You need to find a way to really energize your audience. I would love to be that person. So I would love to talk with you about your event coming up.
Now, Rich, I know I said that was the last thing, but you said something very key, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up to my audience. When you are asked to come back to speak, what do you think is the reason because I think that some speakers are like, well, why didn't I get a call back? And there's so many things in my mind of the reasons that could be the reason why, but just share with the audience, just when you get called back, why is that?
I think so. As a former event planner myself, that's one of the things that helps me connect with my event planners when I start working with them. I understand what it's like to go through what they go through. It's high stress, it's high priority, it's high responsibility. I try to be as low maintenance as possible. I'm like the polar opposite of Mariah Carey on the other side of the spectrum. But I understand what they're going through. When it comes to finding the right speaker, I do speaking, emceeing, and DJing. So I have clients that mix and match what I do with them. And I think when you find someone that if I'm going to spend this kind of money, this kind of time, this kind of resources and trust on someone, if you can find someone that proves that they respect your event as much as you do, you can't replace that. If it's not a callback, what I love is when clients call back and say, hey, I'd love to have you back next year, but we always rotate our speakers. Who would you recommend? That's why going back to that network of speakers, I love recommending my friends because they know as a trusted resource, I'm not going to recommend somebody that doesn't have the same amount of care in what they do as I do. So they know they're going to get a trusted resource. I think it comes back to, did you deliver? Were you humble? Were you easy to work with? Did you provide the experience that you promised in the marketing and the pre-event meetings? Were you kind? I can't tell you how many people I've been on site with from like, they're not getting called back because they are not kind or easy to work with. You need to be humble. It's not about you. You're there to support the event. You're there to support the people. That's your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to be catered to and wined and dined. Go there, do what you need to do. You're there to serve those people. They need you and they need your message or you wouldn't be there. Take that responsibility and cherish it. If you don't take care of your business, if you don't take care of your clients, you don't take care of the audiences, LinkedIn's always good.
Well, you heard
Just
it here.
saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Wow, you heard it here first. What you think? Like, just thank you for reminding us that real transformation doesn't just happen through information. It happens through empathy, presence, and being willing to care. To everyone listening, don't just speak, feel the room. And that's what I'm learning from you, Rich, is just feel the room and move the room and give them something that lives beyond the applause. And we'll see you next time on Speakers and Stages. Thank you so much for joining us, Rich.
Thank you so much for having me.